Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm PCM TV founder Jimmy Young. So happy to be joined by a friend from the Massachusetts area. His name is Chris Faraone. He puts out a newsletter every week called the Talking Joints Memo. And if you have not subscribed, I urge you to do it because this guy covers cannabis fairly. Is that fair? Are you happy with that? Because I actually believe that,
Yeah,
Chris.
I don't believe in objectivity. I just believe in being thorough, real frankly. I try. It's every decision we make is subjective. I try to make the subjective decision to include a lot of information.
Right. And you're human. So that,
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Last time I checked, you're human, right? Anyway.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. This week, I love the lead lawsuits everywhere, Massachusetts.
Ah,
This is one of the reasons why when people ask me what should I invest in the cannabis space, I go a good law firm because
yeah, oh,
they
yeah.
in either side
Always.
are right. Absolutely. Here's the one that intrigues me the most: the two fields that were adjacent to each other, right? And one had pesticides in it, and those pesticides ended up moving over onto the cannabis crop, and the cannabis crop got flagged, right? Isn't
That's
that
right.
the gist?
That's right. And the lawsuit is, when we write about lawsuits and when we speak about them on podcasts, we're very careful, of course, and innocent until it's not guilty, it's civil court, but innocent until proven not innocent. At the
Yep.
same time, this lawsuit filed by a Westfield, Massachusetts grower, which is not quite all the way in the western part of the state, but I think it's in the Pioneer Valley. I
Yep.
know people from out there will correct me on the specs, but nevertheless, it's a small grow that has not put product to market in a couple of years, is suing its neighbor. It's a strawberry farm, Norse Farms, and there's a lot of documentation that comes with this lawsuit, and the documentation basically shows that I don't know what the culpability is, but to the extent that it happened, yes. I mean, so there are certain pesticides, and this that can be used in a strawberry grow that cannot be found in your tests, your residual or your testing of your cannabis crop in Massachusetts,
Yep.
and it's caused them apparently, allegedly $17 million in damages. They're not going to be able to put a crop out this year. They're stuck with all this fresh frozen. It's a disaster, and it really goes to show the bottom line here is that outdoor growers, which in my opinion, we should be encouraging outdoor
Yep.
grows. Hey, I'm wearing a number 9 sunflower coastal cultivars. They are an advertiser of ours, but they're also one of my favorite spots. They're
Yep.
growing under the sun. Nothing against indoor grows. My point is, life is made pretty difficult for the outdoor grows. As far as there are some pesticides, natural pesticides, not the not DDT, but natural pesticides that are you're allowed to use in one regard, but then they can't be part of your testing afterwards. You'll have to get someone on a lot smarter than me to really break that down. But I know we only have short time here anyway. So the point
Right.
is, this is only, this is adding another layer. It appears to be an unprecedented lawsuit, at least in Massachusetts, of the contamination from the neighboring non-cannabis crop. So we'll
Right.
see what happens. And you just your heart just breaks for a business like this that, hasn't been able to put product to market.
Absolutely. And now does it beg the question, does that mean that our food supply allows the pesticides, but our cannabis side is testing more strictly for things like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
right?
So listen, I'm a guy who is not big on. I'm not like some libertarian nut job, but I don't love all the regulations. I think we've been smoking weed forever, and I wish it was just right. But living in the world that we do live in, yes. I mean, Jimmy, Massachusetts has some of the most unbelievably strict
Right.
regulations,
Right.
especially for things like residual solvents for vapes and things like that. So people can really be rest assured. At the same time, some of the restrictions it's not just that they're strict, they're really unreasonable and not well done, according to experts. And that's where there are a lot of problems that are leading to some of the other stuff I'm sure we'll talk about today.
The
But this
lab,
lawsuit
the
really just
lab
shows
shop.
that
Yeah, lab
there's
shopping.
problems.
Yeah, lab shopping is a problem. And it's because these restrictions, this is a residual effect of these restrictions, because right?
Well, lab shopping. It's also related to testing, and that
Right.
but and lab shopping is related to testing standards. Now, the testing standards on pesticides, yeah, I mean, and on some of the contaminants, yes, that there's basically, if we're going to separate testing into two categories, there's testing for all the bad stuff, and then there's testing for potency. Now, this other lawsuit we're talking about, the Framingham-based MCR Labs, which also has facilities in other states,
Yep.
is suing 8 other ITLs, independent testing labs,
Right.
saying that they cheat on their tests for all of these other things, for potency and for things like heavy metals and everything. Why do they do this? Allegedly, and well, if they were to do it, the reason is because people want, it makes their value of their crop
they're willing
higher.
to pay for better results, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically paying for better results, but it's not just better. On the potency side, certainly it's better results. On the contamination side, and it is, and on the total yeast and mold side, in some cases, it is to pass things that should not be passed. And we're not going to get into names necessarily of brands, but this whole past week has been an absolute disaster in Massachusetts cannabis with some of the parties named in the lawsuit also having products recalled by the state telling Talking Joints Memo that they were not reacting to this lawsuit. So what we're seeing now is basically the culmination of a lot of mess that people who know this stuff have predicted. I'm just a reporter.
Right.
Not trying. I'm a reporter. I've written it, but I've written other people saying it. It's not me saying it. I'm a dummy. They had to burn the school down to get me out of chemistry class. I am relying on the experts here. And when you read, if you look at a lot of this data, I don't know if the defendants in this case are to blame. I'm just saying that clearly things are out of whack. The standards are not, they really don't appear to be very thorough standards. And this is where where it's led to a bunch of lawsuits in an industry that's already hurting.
And yet the purpose of strict testing was to make sure that the product would be safe for the public. So I think the intent, but it was the application now and the human element in the rollout of this. And again, this is a brand new industry. They're learning, they're making mistakes, none bigger than the appointment of the commissioners at the whole Deborah Goldberg, Shannon O'Brien thing. Are we going to see a reality show on this?
There's a new development in that today, by the way, which will help them get a reality show. It turns out, I think more documents were unredacted, and it's just about kind of some of the former chair's alleged behavior. But it's just. And by the way, that all ties into the testing thing too, because despite her, alleged insane behavior, the former chair was also someone who we are told listened to stakeholders when they came and said testing is a problem. So nothing is what it seems to be. Up is down. 30% is 20%. 10% is 15%. That's kind of where we are. I got to say, as somebody who's like on the inside of this, I have my bearings a little bit, but for somebody who's just on the outside, man, it must be confusing as heck. I think places, if you're in the business, man, get your customers, hug them tightly, give them whatever they want, give them variety, give them good prices, because man, it is a jungle out there. By the way, the 8 of the stores that this contaminated product was apparently sold at, the CCC quietly, after putting like a list of 20 stores, said, no, these 8 were accidents. So they accidentally shouted out 8 stores. And of course, the larger media, your regular, Jimmy, the media you come from, TV media, they love anything negative. So they don't report. And I don't care if they report the positive, but as soon as there's a recall, oh my God. I always say it's like gay marriage. Like when the first gay couple got divorced, it was like, gay divorce, like told you so. That's what it's like with weed. Every time there's a problem. But here's the thing. With this one, we all know, anyone who's trained in media knows you localize, right? So every local newspaper, every regional television had those dispensaries, but 8 of them shouldn't have even been on the list. So it's just like one thing after another. And, and I'm usually kind of not necessarily a defender of the CCC, but just usually saying, yeah, a lot of the bad stuff is blown up. But at this point, I don't even know, man. It's crazy.
It's bad for the industry. This is a bad.
I think it's demonstrably bad for the industry. Although otherwise there is some momentum. There is some positive movement at the actual commission, but they have to deal with all this stuff too. Not that they shouldn't have to. It's a mess kind of that they are part of. But but the whole thing is. I'm glad I don't work there. I got to say, it definitely makes our life kind of exciting, and people come to us to read it. So I'm not wishing bad things on anyone, but this is really it's turbulence. It's a lot of turbulence, and anyone who's new getting in here, you better be reading Talking Joints Memo and watching Jimmy, because this you got to keep up. I don't know how you could ever keep up and run a business.
Can't. You can't.
It's
And
crazy.
I try to read 50 newsletters a week, and it gets to Monday and I still miss an item or two. You just can't. There's so much going on out there now.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to bring up what's going on in Washington, D.C., because it's really depressing, and
Well,
I'm very upset by it. And I'm really a one issue voter now. I mean, I'm in the industry. I'd like to have the industry survive, and I want to do what's best for the industry, and I support the candidates that are going to be best for the industry.
the pornography industry?
No, not that industry. I guess that would be the second one. Anyway, no. Wait. I was in sports, for crying out loud. Give me sports.
I'm kidding.
All right. So O'Brien and Goldberg, what's the end game here? Does Deborah Goldberg, do you think that the proper thing for her to do would be to resign at this point?
The treasurer to resign?
Yes.
What are you dreaming? I mean, listen.
Well, no, it's not a dream. It goes back to sports. You don't fire the whole team, you fire the coach.
These are two. All right. So one thing about that situation, I will say, and I hate to be so woke, but when I talk about this, it's like we are talking about two women here, but some things just have to be said. And I'd obviously say it was two men, but we've seen a lot of, frankly, crazy behavior.
Right.
And one thing that when you talk to Beacon Hill insiders about this, and trust me, I've been covering Beacon Hill for 20 years. I know a lot of them.
I do trust you.
This is not exaggeration. When you tell them that people watching from the cannabis space say, "Oh my God, Shannon O'Brien is nuts," they say, "Well, then people haven't met Deb Goldberg." This is an absolute, and I don't want to take the whole full Howie Carr right wing crank lane, but these are two people who, when you're in government, what is it, your last however many years, your pension is based on those salaries, and there's all these mechanics, but it is a huge embarrassment, cost. They're always stepping out of meetings to have executive sessions about this. But what a ridiculous situation it has been.
Yes.
And I don't know where the judge, I know the judge a couple of weeks ago was like, this needs to end like now.
Right.
Like when you really want people out of your house.
Yes.
It's 2:00 in the morning. You've been drinking all night. Get the hell out of here. That's where the judge is. So, everyone shares the sentiments, but these are some serious attorneys that O'Brien brought to the table. I think if we learn anything here, folks,
her law fees were like over the salary cap. You know what I mean? It was like almost $1 million in law.
They're fighting for blood. There's a lot of money at stake, which is kind of just crazy when you consider. But
find a good law firm to invest in.
I think that listen, you're always taking a gamble with appointing someone the head of to be the head of something this consequential. They kind of, I think, lucked out with the first head, Steve Hoffman. That was like your obvious, I think it's Bain Capital, literal, business pick. He literally looks like kind of, Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's before he gets, dies. Or bad example, you know what I mean? He looks like Wall Street. I like Steve, but that's a type, right? And that could have really gone south. It has in other states. Business, as we know, if you're watching, New
York,
the Washington D.C., we don't always need business people in charge over here, but for what it was worth, Hoffman set it up. He he ran the bureaucracy. Then they brought a bureaucrat in to run the bureaucracy.
And it backfired.
I just think there should have been a little, when we think about this new guy coming in to be the executive director, he's studied. When I think about how much this guy knew, even at his interview, and now what he knows now, the guy's like a bean guy. He's the town manager of Holliston, Travis and Ahern. He's studying every day and all this. Like this is Shannon O'Brien. I don't think she did very much homework. I mean, she would say things in open meeting that would blow my mind, like admitting that they don't know how to change the law. I mean, it was mind boggling. So. I hope it ends soon too. But I'm going to be honest, I kind of conceded that story a long time ago. Since it's a Beacon Hill story, State House News Service, Colin Young has owned that, broken everything. Grant Smith Ellis has also because he covers the courts for other stuff too.
Yep.
So, it's never been mine. So maybe I'm jealous, but I'm also just sick of it at this point. And
The
it's
thing is,
tangential other than a lot of the testing inroads, which, I got to give Grant credit for. He has written about that too. I have, but, so it is relevant to important stuff, but it's not the most important story.
right. All right. All right. Most important story to a lot of people in this industry right now is what's the latest on the social club world? Are we going to see something? They did the public comments. We had Kyle Moon's public comments on our news, from the Summit Lounge. Where does that stand? Because you have been on top of that.
Oh yeah, that's social consumption is our bag, baby. So yeah, I mean,
It doesn't exist yet.
well, okay, but it's closer to existing than I think. Listen, I'll take the beating on this if I'm wrong, but like I said, I'm not a cheerleader for the CCC. I think anyone who reads me knows that. But on this, yeah, it's taken forever, but they did get some. They 2 years ago started by getting rid of some of the bad stuff, and then really. Listen, the regulations are out. They're redlining them now. If anybody wants to read them, they can read them. The easiest I could break it down. There's basically 3 license classes. One is supplemental. That's like if you have a dispensary and there's a spot there and you're going to turn that into something, right?
Yeah.
The next is hospitality. That's if you are going to like build a whole new weed bowling alley, or if you have a bowling alley and you're going to make a weed section of it. The third is event organizer, which, Talking Joints Memo will probably be a part of one of those.
Yep.
It's not, it's, that's like, just like any company,
Right.
event company, media company, you're going to have events. And I got to say, whether these things happen overnight now, which they won't, it'll take some time, or slower or faster. The big news here, and this is from an ultimate cynic, they're really generous, these regulations. They're not prohibition. They're not from like a place where weed is bad. They
Good.
really did their homework, and it's a framework people can work with. Now, is the state ready for it? Is the CCC ready to regulate that? There's a million questions, but I gotta say, they're really. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think
I'm
if
shocked.
you're an investor in anything alcohol related, get your money back right now before it's too late.
Yep.
Between social consumption of cannabis and ultimately psychedelics, there's alcohol sales are going to be down 50% in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not to pass judgment on that. That's just how I think it's going to go. And I think social consumption, because the rules are so not opaque, but just like malleable,
Yep.
that you're going to see some really interesting stuff. You're going to see just a hot dog stand where you can buy a dime bag, and you're going to see a whole sports complex, and you're going to see lounges, and you're going to see, just different things. And because of the way it's structured, there's going to be a lot of small businesses, at least at first. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the big money is scared away from cannabis now anyway. So it'll be a little more grassroots, hopefully, especially for the first 5 years.
Right.
Like only social equity, social equity
Good.
program applicants, people who have been through this social equity program in Massachusetts can have those,
That's good.
can have the social consumption licenses, or 50%, 50%. So
To me, it's just a sign of normalization and evolution at this point. And it's well overdue. I think it was part of the original bill too, wasn't it, Chris? Didn't they say? Yeah.
It was, and it's actually interesting because there have been different versions of it, and I'd even been corrected in some of my reporting by former Commissioner Shalene Title, who wrote that the what they ultimately put out now is pretty darn close to what was originally there. And it's we can knock them all we want. We will always poke fun, but I guess the political reality was that in order to move things ahead and to do other things, people just weren't ready for it. And they did actually, and then, subsequently write, except it was a pretty bad version of this bill that really wouldn't allow for consumption. It was just terrible. It
was
like,
a pilot
like we're going to be
program.
sitting around eating
Yeah.
gummy bears together or something
No,
with a
that's
babysitter, but so that is all gone now. I think, there'll be some hurdles. I think that I don't know why they'd be different from the few cigar lounges in the state, but as far as like indoor combustion, that's not going to be cheap. So I think if you're going to be smoking, I think you'll be seeing, at least at first, a lot of outdoor stuff.
But Chris, 50% of the consumers of cannabis are not smoking it anymore.
No, sure, but okay, but we're talking about social consumption, so we're gonna figure out like,
totally understand that.
What if you want restaurants where you're, eating edibles and stuff? I don't know. We're gonna have to see.
So let me ask you,
but
as a media guy, does it bug you every time that there's a story about cannabis on traditional news, if you will, you see the burning joint?
How about they used to have this B-roll of like an 80-year-old grandma with a giant bag of vape. And I missed that. I haven't seen that one forever. I love that. That wherever that woman is,
I have one of those images from.
I hope she's super stoned. It was like it was like a garbage bag. Like she's hitting a volcano. So I used to love that stock footage. That was my favorite one. But the close-up joint. But I swear I've been doing this for so long that GBH and a lot of these places, like in 2016 and stuff, they would call me because they would need someone to get high on camera, and I would always give Mike Crawford's number.
Don't give him mine.
Michael Malta, rest in peace. The king of pot.
Yeah.
So KOP. So yeah, we would. Red Blazer, rest in peace. I gave Red Blazer's number to some television producers once, and they followed him around. They just needed someone to smoke. They didn't have him on their Rolodex. Meanwhile,
the market has evolved. That's all I'm trying to say. The market has evolved. Whether it reaches the daily news meeting or not is a completely different element and a completely different story, because they're hurting for ratings. You know that. I know that. It's that audience is shrinking. Local news audience is shrinking, which means the production budgets is shrinking. And it's not an easy thing anymore. Chris, as usual, we could talk forever about this, but we should at least give some credit to the state for setting a sales record in 2024. Okay, now they didn't beat the last year's record by that much, but you know what? I think it's 1.64 billion. Was that it? Was that the number?
Yeah, it's like almost 1.7 or something like that. I think.
There's something to be said for that, but I think the biggest thing is, while you look at that number and you see, whoa, that's huge. You look at some of the other states now, the newer states, if you will. And they're passing us like we're standing still in Massachusetts. You know what I'm saying? And New York is on the outside looking in, just waiting.
Well, I'm going there next week, and I think that, I'm sure the market is what it is. I'm a New Yorker originally, a mass transplant, but adopted. It's my adopted home state proudly. I don't like sports, so I don't care really. I'm a man with no land, but basically, I am looking forward to seeing what they have going on. Maine's always been interesting. It's right there and has a great market, a little more organic, a little more down to earth, a little less regulated, or a lot less regulated.
So New York is more regulated now, by the way.
Yeah, New York is like super, regulated, similar to Mass, and some brands are also there, but definitely some nuances. So I want to see what's up. The other thing is I'm coming in as an outsider. It's not like in Mass where I know what brands to get. It's kind of crazy being a stranger. Of course, hope you rely on good bud tenders and hopefully some good reporting that I'll find. But we'll see. It'll be an experience. If anybody has any ideas, hit me up.
There you go. And Talking Joints Memo is how do we sign up for you? Just go to your website.
Oh, you can't be on that website without being asked to. You'll go on. We'll ask you if you come to our website, talkingjointsmemo.com.
Is it before or after I have to show that I'm over 21? I'm sorry.
Right after you do that. We do have an age gate, an easy one, but it's there.
He's Chris Faraone from Talking Joints Memo. I recommend him, and we'll have more of our news show after this. Thanks.
I think I messed up. Did you know there's a place that covers all the cannabis news you need? Welcome to Pro Cannabis Media, your go-to for all things cannabis. PCM is the CNBC of weed, bringing you the latest news and talk shows with a twist. We've got 16 state correspondents and multimedia journalists from around the US and Canada.
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Jones with Big Green Distribution with the Missouri Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Amy Carter from Michigan Weedsters.
Andrew Behringer here reporting from Washington, D.C.
Debbie Fazy with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
It all started back in 2018 when founder Jimmy Young kicked off the In the Weeds podcast. His mission? Documenting the fight to end cannabis prohibition. Fast forward to today and we've got Cannabis Coast to Coast with Elena Pinto, delivering the nation's only TV-style cannabis news show.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Cannabis Coast to Coast PCM TV's weekly roundup of industry news from California to New York. I'm Elena Pinto.
As of August 2024, PCM has racked up over 1.2 million views and 14.5 million impressions on our YouTube channel. With 15,000 subscribers and growing, our reach is spreading like wildfire. PCM's website, YouTube, Rumble, Discord, Roku, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even our very own PCM TV app. Get your cannabis news fix with Pro Cannabis Media. We're here to keep you informed and entertained. Stay tuned and stay lifted.